We have the most decorated professional racquetball player in history sitting across the table from me, which is crazy. And it's true. It's Team USA, countless medals, victories, and some truly unbelievable stories that have developed you into the person you are today. Rhonda Rajsich, what's going on?
What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Dude, I'm very good. How are you?
Spectacular.
I appreciate you being here. You know, we've known each other now for, I don't know if it's been a year, but maybe approaching a year. And you're someone I've always wanted to talk just a hell of a lot more to. Like, we've had lunch and we've worked out and stuff like that. But I'm like, there's a couple things today that I just want to ask you so many questions.
How about it?
Because I mean, people just think about that. The most decorated professional racquetball player in history.
U.S. history.
In U.S. history.
Yeah, male or female.
Yeah, male, female, anybody. Like, you're the number one. You're the GOAT. It's so cool. You're the Jordan of racquetball. Because, you know, but you're also an author, speaker, coach. Like, you do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Right. If I go onto your website, I could just read all day about all the different things you've done. But I grew up playing racquetball, and I've never talked to a professional racquetball player. So I think it's really cool to talk to you from that angle too. But you know, we met at an Elliott event with Tim Grover, right? So we were out there. I was part of Elliott at the time. I was running the fitness division with Adam, and Tim Grover has always been one of my guys. Like, just I hadn't met him before that, but he's always been someone that I've really, really looked up to personally and professionally. And you came out there to meet him. So how do you know Tim? How did that work out?
So I don't remember how it happened. I got an email that he was doing a thing that you could sign up for. You actually had to submit an application, see if you were chosen to be included in this thing. As I'm sure he's got thousands of submissions, but
yeah,
he went through every single one, and I got a response that, welcome to D&D, and he did several of them over the course of 3 or 4 years, and I attended all of them but one. I missed the first one.
Okay.
If there was a first one that I knew about, I would have done that.
Was it like a little coaching seminar or?
Yeah, it was like a once a week, couple hour call once a week for like 8 weeks at a time, and each one was kind of had its own little specific message that they covered over the course of 8 weeks, and it was you could there was a core group of people that were in every one, that we all were familiar with each other, and then the rest were new faces and new ingredients to the soup, as it were.
Yeah.
And, but it was an incredible experience. And I just remember one time during that first group, one of the other members asked Tim a question, and Tim's response was, well, there's another person on this call that I think could answer that maybe even better than I can. This person is, and he started listing these accolades, and I'm like, he can't mean me. I felt like that little kid at the end of Neverending Story, like, he can't be talking about me.
Yeah.
Not me. Like, this is just a story, right? And yeah, actually he finished what he was lining up there, and he said, Rhonda, why don't you answer Tim's question? I'm like, I forgot the question. I didn't even know you were gonna bring me into this. I'm like, what was the question again? So I just remember being extremely shocked, humbled, and breathless that Tim Grover knew who I was.
Yeah.
Not for any other reason other than reading my application, but just for that to even register, for him to recognize me after the fact, was like huge. So I had actually seen him speak before. I had a long talk with Sherry on the phone about some speaking stuff, like just getting some advice. And, as I was kind of starting out business wise, I was like, I don't know what I don't know. Do you have any thoughts, any pointers, anything, I need to address right now? So she and I had a long conversation, and she's like, let's talk again. And I'm like, okay, when are you free? And she goes, well, let's see, we're in Tempe right now. I'm like, you're what? She goes, we're in Tempe this week. We leave. I'm like, wait, Sherry, I'm looking at Tempe from my balcony. You're 10 minutes away from me. Where are you? She's like, oh, well, do you want to come see Tim talk tomorrow? I'm like, yes, of course. So I went and saw him there. It's great to see them both. And then I just happened to actually Carell. He said something about the Elliott group almost exactly a year ago today. And he said something about an event they were having. So I looked up Elliott Group, and I'm like, oh, this is in Fountain Hills. This is down the street from my mother. I pass this building every day. And then I was just looking through the things. And then the next event they were doing was the one that Tim spoke at. So I reached out to Sherry, and I just said, welcome to my hood. Because I knew that, she posted something on Instagram.
Yeah.
And that they were landing in Phoenix or something. And I just said, welcome to the Valley of the Sun. And she's like, oh, are you here? Yeah. Do you want to come? Do you know where Fountain Hills is? I'm like, my mother lives there. I'm like, I know exactly where you guys are at this weekend. She's like, oh, well, come say hi. I'm like, okay. And then there I was, and there you were, and here we are.
And here we are. He's one of those people that seems to have one of those abilities to like seem like he knows you.
Yeah.
And imagine how many people he knows everybody, right?
Yeah.
Because he gave me a compliment one time that's always stuck with me, and it could have been an insult, didn't matter. The fact was that he remembered me, kind of like you said, and like kind of like knew who I was. We had communicated a little bit because he was going to come out to one of our group workouts that we were putting together every weekend or every seminar. So Ray Cash.
Yeah.
So Ray came out and helped run the event with me and Adam
I met him
and the guys.
at that same place.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
The same day I met you there.
Perfect. So Tim couldn't get there to the workout that time, but we had communicated a little bit. And so we're up in Utah and we're at the Muscles house, at Keaton's house for a party. And I go up to say hi to Tim, I shake his hand and stuff. And he actually knew who I was at the time. And I was like blown away, because I think we just DM'd or something. I don't remember how we even got connected. And what he said is one of the coolest things, because at the time, Adam and I were running the fitness division, basically for all the sales guys there and all the clients and everything like that. And he said something like, he put his fingers in my chest and he goes, "You're the glue that makes this whole thing possible. You're holding all these guys together." He wasn't specifically talking about me, but more like my position of like the guy that was bringing that fitness and health and that mindset to the sales team. And he goes, "You keep on top of these guys, keep pushing them." And this is like, one-on-one with his finger in my chest. And I was just like, this is wild. Like I grew up, reading his books and just watching his stories and like all the people he's trained. We don't even have to name them. And I'm just like, now I'm standing here one-on-one with this guy. And he like, you know what I mean? But I feel like he has that ability to do that, and which makes him so unique and real. It's pretty cool. So I think that's pretty neat how like we were kind of connected by Tim Grover.
I know, right?
How cool is that?
Actually, yeah, it really is.
Yeah, because it's like, I'm not just bringing up Tim Grover just because I want to talk about Tim Grover. That's kind of how we got connected,
It is.
It's absolutely crazy. So let's talk about racquetball a bit. Because when I was a kid, I played all the time. I loved it, like for fun. I went to like Horizon High School, had these outdoor, courts we'd play on, that we'd go to like random gyms that would play indoor. And I don't really know anything. I don't have any specific rackets or like ball weights or whatever. I don't know any of that stuff. I literally just played like for fun, but I loved it. I felt like I had really good hand-eye coordination, and I could hit it really fast. I'm like 6'2". I could hit it really hard, and at least so I think. I'm sure you don't think so.
I haven't seen you hit yet.
But you haven't seen me hit yet. Not yet.
Yeah.
But I loved it. And now here we are all these years later. I haven't played in decades. And now I'm sitting here talking with you, like the best. So where did you grow up and how did you start playing racquetball? How did this become part of your identity?
So I was born here in Phoenix.
Really?
Yeah.
My daughter was too, and I think you're like the only two that I know now that were born here in Phoenix. What hospital?
Phoenix General Hospital.
Cool. She was born at St. Joe's, right by our Mexican spot.
Yeah.
At what time?
5:13 a.m.
Okay.
17 and a half hours of labor, according to my mother. She never lets me forget it.
Oh, dang. Yeah, I bet.
So I grew up here. I was actually delivered by my godfather when I was born. And that's
cool.
The reason I'm telling you that. My godfather is the one who got my father into racquetball.
Okay.
Quick family history. My father was the oldest of 5 boys. All of them played professional something at some point. My dad played 2 years of pro baseball, 2 years of semi-pro basketball. Uncle Tim played 2 years of pro baseball. Uncle Dave and Uncle Gary both played baseball for their careers. They both have World Series rings. My Uncle Robbie still holds the record for the longest punt at the University of Miami. Then he kicked for the Chargers for a minute. Then he became a professional golfer. So excellence was expected the moment I was conceived, pretty much.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, weren't you under so much pressure as a kid?" I'm like, no, because that is what was familiar. Pressure is what was familiar. Then that doesn't make it pressure. So my father was just learning how to play racquetball from my godfather, and my mother was either playing tennis with my godmother or she was doing aerobics. And they stuck me in the nursery. I was 2. And the health club opened up when I was 2. They joined the health club, stuck me in the nursery, did their thing. I didn't want to be in the nursery. I wanted to go be doing the fun shit that they were doing.
Yeah.
So I figured out how to sneak out. Remember the little wooden blocks with the letters and the numbers on them? Mm-hmm. I figured out if I took one of those and I wedged it in the doorway when another parent came in to bring their kid in, I could pull the door open with both hands and escape. And
Nice.
it's funny because until I started getting, kind of successful, whatever, and people are asking that exact same question, like, how'd you get into racquetball? Until they actually heard my answers, I think my whole life, my dad thought my mom was always taking me out of the nursery. My mom always thought my dad was taking me out of the nursery. They didn't realize that I was sneaking out, but I would sneak out and I would just kind of be like eyeballing where my dad was. And when I figured out which court he was on, I'm like, all right, there he is. And then I would run down to the basketball court and grab a basketball. And I would basically just do basketball. And now keep in mind, I'm 2, so I'm probably holding the ball like this, right?
Yeah.
But I'm playing basketball until my dad is in between games. And then I run up and steal his racket and run onto the racquetball court and whack it around for a little bit. And then he's like, okay, kid, give the big people the racket back now. What are you doing out here anyway? Where's your mother?
Yeah, wait a minute.
And then before he could do anything about it, I would run back down and grab the basketball like, you can't catch me. And I would just go back and forth.
Sure.
And that's essentially what I've done with my life. I know you rattled off some racquetball accolades, but I'm actually better at basketball than I am at racquetball.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you coach basketball, I think, too, right?
Yeah.
But let's do a little more on racquetball, and then we'll talk about basketball. So at some point did somebody be like, "Hey, she actually likes this. Let's feed it."
My parents got divorced when I was 5,
okay.
and racquetball kind of became my dad's therapy. Like he just dove into it head first. Like started taking clinics and started playing tournaments and started getting serious about playing racquetball. And I think that was his way of dealing with losing my mom.
Yeah.
That said, my parents were both equally responsible for raising me as immaculately as possible. I mean, they were just truly incredible parents, truly incredible human beings. Neither of them weaponized me. They were always kind and civil to each other. They always, if it was my mom's birthday, my dad still got her a card and potentially a gift. Same thing with my mom with my dad. They sat next to each other at my ball games. They sit next to each other at my tournaments. They were always, they remained friends despite the divorce. And they always, every decision they ever made had only my highest good in mind between the two of them. So
that's pretty rare.
It's extremely rare. And that's why I have to mention it, because I have to give them so much credit for how I turned out, because they were just such an incredible example of, kind, compassionate humanity.
Yeah.
That you just don't see anymore.
So you're 5 at this point?
I'm around, I'm like 5 or 6. Yeah.
Okay.
And my dad would go to the gym in the morning and play racquetball before work. Well, I wanted to go. And like, there was times, a lot of people gave my dad a bunch of shit. You don't need to be waking your child up that early to go to the gym. She needs her rest. She needs to focus on, I'm like, I'm dragging him to the gym. He's not dragging me to the gym. I'm dragging him to the gym. And he took a ton of shit for how I was raised, but I'm completely satisfied with the way that I was raised. And I appreciate every moment of it. I would say between the ages of 10 and 18, well, 10 and before I could drive, my typical day looked like go to the gym, go to school, have basketball practice, then have racquetball practice because we created a junior Arizona team that I was the president of. Get some food, get some sleep, do some homework, wash, rinse, repeat the next day.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved it. I played racquetball and basketball every day, including school, including homework, including, all the food and rest that I needed. And just, that's all I wanted to do.
I'm hearing some similarities between that and like Jordan's upbringing and Tiger's upbringing, just every day, all day, making shots, swinging, like just repetition is over and over and over again. And I agree. A lot of people give their parents shit for that, but it's like, well, it's produced the best.
Not only that, but they didn't push me. I asked for it.
Okay.
There's mornings my dad wanted to, can we just sleep in today? I'm like, no, when you can sleep in when I can drive myself. I'm 12. I can't drive yet. You gotta take me to the gym.
That's right.
Like, I wanted to go.
That's cool.
Nobody made me. Nobody forced me. Nobody said you have to do this if you want to be the best. I just got up and went and did it because I enjoy doing it. It's fun. And a lot of people ask how I can have the longevity I have at the level I have with the success that I've had. And the reason is because at the end of the day, it is a game and it's supposed to be fun. And the moment it's not fun anymore, don't do it.
Yeah.
I do it because I genuinely, like, I don't have to play racquetball. I get to play racquetball. To me, that's like knowing that, hey, you're on court 1. That's like when the bell rings and I get to go have recess now. Like, I get to go run around and play.
Yeah.
At the heart of my entire career is a little kid who just can't wait to go have fun and play.
So I know you were young then, but where do you think that drive came from? Because as we go through this conversation, it's stuck with you your entire life, even through ridiculous situations. But it seems like you've just kind of always had that.
Yeah.
Did you see that in your parents? Do you think you picked that up from them, or Do you just have this extra fire? And like, where do you think this came from?
Probably a little of both. Probably a little of both. My father was also in the Army for nearly 40 years. He retired as a lieutenant colonel. And, you know, between the athletic background, the military background, the drive, the discipline, the regiment, the, you know, the preparedness, all the things.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's what I saw every day.
I like that because, you know, one of the things that we really harp on with our fitness programs are habits, and it's being consistent with habits. So you were essentially seeing a structured, disciplined, you know, habit-driven person like your dad, maybe your mom, I think, right? You know, because I was Navy, I wasn't in for 40 like him, but like, you know, in order to be in that world, you have to be pretty regimented. And I'm imagining that's probably where you started to see a lot of that, which I think is super cool.
Could be. I mean, it just that's what made sense to me. That's what felt good to me.
Okay.
If I can share one really quick story, just because it's a little fascinating to me. I would call this probably the greatest compliment I've ever been given. I was at a Mercury game, and I was walking behind the scores table to go to the little VIP area where the bathrooms were below, you know, not the ones up in the concourse, but below the seats.
Yeah.
And I thought I heard someone say my last name. And I turned around and I'm looking and I don't see anybody that I recognize. And I'm just like, I'm hearing things. Went on to the bathroom. As I'm coming back out, I'm still kind of scanning the crowd in that general area. And I'm like, no, I still don't see anyone I recognize. And then I take a couple of steps and I hear this, excuse me, are you a Rajsich? I turn around and I'm looking, I'm like, who just said that? That's the second time I heard somebody say my name correctly.
Yeah.
Which, you know, is not easy.
Right. No, it's not.
So I'm looking around and I'm this gray-haired woman with glasses. Excuse me. Hi. Are you a Rajsich? And I was so taken aback by the way she said that question. She didn't say, are you Rhonda Rajsich? She said, are you a Rajsich?
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, how did you know that? She's like, oh, I knew it. Hi, I'm Barbara so-and-so. I went to Central High School. My dad and all his brothers went to Central High School when they moved here from Ohio when my dad was a teenager. So she knew the whole family. She goes, who do you belong to? Like, she had no idea who I was. She didn't know that I was a professional athlete. She knew nothing about me. She did not know I existed. She just looked at me and said, are you a Rajsich? And I said, well, Dennis is my father. Tim, David, Gary, and Robbie are my uncles. And Nick was my grandfather. Mary, my grandmother. She's like, oh, I know Nick and Mary. She's like, my dad used to sit next to your grandfather at all the ball games, watching the boys play, blah, blah, blah. And she's just giving me like this whole family history of, you know, her teenage years around my family.
Yeah.
And she's like, so Dennis is your dad? I go, yeah. She goes, he's the oldest one, right? I go, yeah. I'm like, I'm sorry. You're still blowing my mind. I'm like, how did you know I was a Rajsich? And she goes, look at you. The way you walk, the way you carry yourself, the way you present, it's obvious you had to be a Rajsich. And I'm like, wow. And I just like, I'm full body chills right now in this moment, even just retelling that story, because I'm in an arena full of thousands of people watching a professional sporting event. And you just called me out of the blue as a Rajsich. And I was so taken by that.
Yeah.
It was such a humbling, huge compliment.
Well, that's how I noticed you too. Like, honestly, like you stood out for sure. Cause we were at an event with probably 300 people or so.
Yeah.
I was just like, who's this? And, you know, we said hi and everything. And then a couple other times we met after that at like the AZE events, like same thing. Like you look very unique too, but
you too.
But it's the way that
I saw you at the AZE event.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know that guy. And I know exactly the last time I saw him.
Right. But like she said, it's the way you carry yourself. It's the way you present yourself and stand there. It's just like, there's something more about you, which is pretty cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really cool. So you're growing up and you're putting in the reps every day. You're surrounded by a household of boys, it sounds like, that are also performing at a high level and playing their respective sports and all that kind of stuff. So you started to get into competitive stuff, I'm assuming teenager type thing, high school?
Sooner than that. I was playing YMCA basketball by 7, but it was only a boys league. So I was the only girl on my team and the coach would not play me because I was a girl. And after one season of that, my father went, fuck that. He decided to be the coach for the next YMCA season. And of course I played almost every minute of every game.
Yeah.
And
how'd you do?
Also still the only girl on the team.
Yeah.
I was the high scorer. I had all the steals.
Right.
I had half the rebounds. I mean, I was just, but that's, you know, I was just doing what I loved. I didn't have any concept of the politics of all that yet.
Sure.
I was just excited that I got to play. I was excited that I got to do what I wanted to do. And, Pops coached for a couple of years. And then by the time I hit 5th grade, our elementary school did not have a basketball team. Uh, I don't mean we as in like me personally, but my team when I was in 5th grade, our elementary school was the first time that they had a girls basketball team.
Oh, wow.
And they still do today.
Nice.
And I'm
You
like,
started it.
started that shit.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it is. And then went up and, I mean, I played competitive basketball, like I said, since that YMCA. And then my dad wouldn't let me play racquetball tournaments until I was 10. And I could never really figure out why. I'm like, why? He's like, because I said so. And then I got there and I got my ass kicked and I felt like I was so far behind. I'm like, you should have let me start earlier. But my first junior nationals was in Dallas. I was 11 years old and got my ass kicked by Vanessa Taleo. We immediately became best friends, stayed in touch, and then played doubles together the following year at junior nationals and won. But I think I made it to the semis or finals my second junior national. Like I improved rapidly.
Fast. But yeah. What did you say there when you said you got in, you got your butt kicked? What did you say? You said you should have let me play earlier.
Yeah.
So you had this killer instinct in you, like from day one.
Yeah.
Because a lot of kids, they go in there, they get defeated, they get their butt kicked, and they probably wouldn't like it anymore, or they'd feel like, I don't know if I'm good enough. And you were like, we should have just got over this.
We should have started this 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Because they had an 8 and under multi-bounce division. Now they have a 6 and under multi-bounce division. But I mean, just the fact that, he wouldn't let me play any tournaments at all until I was 10. It was just some dumb double-digit rule that he made up based on absolutely nothing.
Right.
So
right.
I don't know what he was waiting for, but my whole life, he never justified that to me. He's like, because. I'm like, cause why? He's like, because I said. I'm like, why'd you say? Because that's what I decided. I'm like, why did you decide that? He could never actually give me a reason.
Sure.
And I did. I was bent. I'm like, should have started sooner. And I busted my ass not to lose first round again. And I never lost first round again in my life.
So that's interesting because he could have started you earlier, but who knows? Maybe it worked out perfectly because of who you became.
There are no accidents.
Yeah.
There are no accidents.
All right. So let's talk like the professional aspect of racquetball. Like, how does someone become a pro? And what kind of levels are there? Because I was researching this a lot. Like, I know there's Team USA. There's different things that people say about Olympic, qualifications for the sport and stuff like that. Like, what is professional racquetball these days?
So professional racquetball means that you have competed on and earned points and or prize money on the Pro Tour. The Pro Tour for the women is the Ladies Professional Racquetball Tour.
Okay.
The Pro Tour for the men is the IRT, the International Racquetball Tour. And then Team USA is a separate entity, but it is comprised of players from each country for representing their respective country. And there's a different qualification process for that. So I can be a pro, but if I don't play the U.S. team qualifier, I'm not going to make the U.S. team.
Sure.
I can be on the U.S. team, qualify for the U.S. team, and be a Team USA member. That doesn't mean I have to play the Pro Tour.
Okay.
They're two separate entities.
Sure.
Although, as a population, the racquetball community is so small that pretty much all the pros are on their country's national team.
Yeah. Yeah. I would imagine so.
Yeah.
So is it in the Olympics now?
No, not right now. They actually, to my chagrin, changed the scoring system about 3 or 4 years ago in an effort to make a push for being attractive to an audience who doesn't know what they're looking at yet, to try to make it into the Olympics in 2028.
Yeah, that's interesting because they have a lot of sports that you would think, how is this in the Olympics? Like curling. I mean, tennis is pretty close. Tennis is in there. Like, there's a lot of things in there that it's like, okay, that's in there. Why wouldn't racquetball be in there?
So
it's more high paced. I think it's probably more interesting.
I do too. I do too. And that's not because I played. It's because
there's a hell of a lot more going on.
Yeah.
It's like constant action.
Yeah. At 160 to 200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just how fast the ball is moving. It's how fast you have to move to go get the ball that's moving that
right.
fast.
And the walls, the ceiling, like all the things.
There's so many things to have to be aware of. Yeah.
Yeah.
It used to be that you had to be serving to score. You could only score a point if you were the one serving.
Right.
If you were the receiver and you won the rally, it's just a side out.
Yeah.
Nobody gets a point. It's just a side out, and now you have the opportunity to score.
Right.
They changed it to rally scoring, which I don't I don't like, and I'm sure it's selfish why I don't like it. They changed it because it's more familiar to other people who watch other sports like tennis. There is scoring on every rally. There's just one server per game. Racquetball is not like that, but now they still do the side out. So like if you and I were playing, and you were serving, and I hit a winning return, so it's a side out, but I also got a point on that side out. And the reason I don't like it is because, and now again, this is just personal. I'm not saying that it's not working. I'm not saying that it's not effective. I'm not saying that anything like that. I'm just explaining the reasons why I don't like it.
Yeah.
Because I think that the games are much too short. Also, we actually tried rally scoring a long time ago when they kind of reinvented the Women's Pro Tour 20 years ago or more.
Sure.
We tried rally scoring, and we did it ping pong style, where 5 serves at a time, scoring on every point, and then you switch servers, right? Then the complaint was the games are lasting too long. Like between the first 4 points and the last 3 points, it's boring. So then we shortened it to 15 rally scoring. And then the feedback was the games go too fast. 15 is not enough. 21 was too much. 15 is not enough. And then the third season of the tour's inception, they just switched it back to what it was previously. You have to be serving to score 3 games out of 5 to 11, must win by 2. Right. They changed it back to, and which was the same thing that the men were doing all along. So we tried rally scoring in the pros, and it didn't really shake out.
So they were only testing this out on the women's side?
Well, they weren't testing it out for the Pro Tour. I'm just saying that the Pro Tour had just like kind of reinvented itself.
Yeah.
And kind of as a gimmick, they tried rally scoring to see how it would go.
Gotcha.
And it worked. It got the buzz in the seats. And then we took the feedback, and then we shortened the games to 15 and still did rally scoring.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, the feedback was games are too short. So they're like, all right, well, we'll just go back to whatever. Well, now we already had the interest. We spent those first 2 seasons creating the buzz, creating the interest, creating more tour stops, creating more sponsorship opportunities, creating an audience. And, the rally scoring in that capacity worked for the gimmick that it was.
Yeah.
But knowing what that feedback was, it's annoying that they're doing it all over again and on purpose and insisting it's not an experiment. It's not changing. This is what we're doing, and this is why. And I appreciate that they're thinking outside the box. I appreciate that they're trying to do something to get racquetball in the Olympics, because in my opinion, it's the greatest game that the world doesn't even know about. Mm-hmm. And they should, because it's an incredible game. And for it to be in the Olympics would be, a huge accomplishment for the sport. It's never been in the Olympics. And I cannot tell you how batty it drives me to see the World Series of Poker on ESPN, and I can't even get racquetball in the top 10 highlights when something spectacular happens. Man,
that's a good point. Let's talk about racquetball versus tennis to paint that picture for people, because big difference in the ball speed, mm-hmm. big difference in the action, big difference in everything. So like, give me some of those stats. Like when people are watching tennis, they're serving at what, 90, 100? How high are they going over 100?
I think Andy Roddick was the closest to hitting something over 130.
Okay, so he's 130. Everyone knows what that looks like. They go crazy at Wimbledon, and they, it's back and forth. Sometimes there's doubles and stuff, but tell us the difference of racquetball.
So the difference between racquetball and tennis, as far as exposure, is money. There's more tennis courts than there are racquetball courts. There's a higher population at every skill level playing tennis than there is racquetball. Tennis is more expensive, and therefore there's more money in total flowing through the sport. But there's also more accessibility. It's hard to find racquetball courts that are either A, in good shape, B, maintained, C, accessible to a lot. Unfortunately, a lot of gyms now have rules that, like, unless you're, 14 or 16 and above, you can't even come into the gym without a parent.
Yeah.
You can't do anything without a parent supervision. Well, what if, your mom wants to go do aerobics or lift, and you want to go play racquetball, but you're not allowed to be on the court by yourself unless your mom's on there with you.
Right.
And, they just make it really hard for accessibility. There are parks that have, some outdoor courts or some 3-wall courts, even some 1-wall courts in some places. So there's that kind of accessibility, but, it's also so unregulated, people may or may not know the rules. It's not like there's an instructor at every park saying, hey, let me help you with your forehand. Hey, did you know that this is actually a fault serve that you're hitting? Yeah. And why? Yeah. Like there isn't the grassroots infrastructure that there should be. for
How
racquetball yet.
how would it work, like watching a game? Like everyone can go to Wimbledon and sit there and kind of watch like it's a rodeo, whatever. Everyone can sit around it.
Yeah.
How do you watch live racquetball? Do you have to be in a clear box or something, or
No,
or
so
what do you
it's
do?
so well, it depends on the venue. So for example, we do have an all glass portable court that they erect at the US Open, and there is box seating, lower level box seating around the entire court, and then there's also stadium seating behind the boxes.
No way.
Now that's
Sounds awesome.
It is. It's amazing. That's why it's
You're in like a clear cage, just going for
well,
it.
so there's a
Wow.
film on the front wall that if you're outside the court, you can see through it. If you're inside the court, that film gives the illusion of like I can't see the people behind it.
Like a two-way mirror.
But the side walls and the back wall are all glass, so it's easy to lose the ball sometimes. And the way that the lighting is on that court.
Yeah.
But there's other courts like we have nationals out here at ASU. They have their main show court has a glass back wall. They all have glass back walls. This one has a glass back wall and a glass right wall, right? So you got kind of stadium seating on the side and you got some stadium seating in the back, right?
Yeah.
Other venues are completely enclosed, but they're, the back or side walls only go up so high, and there's people that can gather around the edge of the top of the back
That's
wall.
cool.
Yeah, so like you can, that's where the ref would stand. They would holler the score down into the court because they don't need a mic.
Yeah.
So it really just depends on the layout of the venue, the space, the crowd size, the dynamics of how many people can we fit where to watch these matches. And every venue is a little different.
Let's talk about like when you're you call it in the box or something?
Court.
In the court. So when you're in the court, we talked about the highest tennis serve is probably 130, something like that. Like how fast are the racquetballs moving? And you're in this box, like you're not all the way across the court, as it's coming at you. Like you're right there, much closer into the action, right? But like, how fast are the racquetballs going, and like, what's the dynamic like in there? Because you got to wear goggles, I think,
yes,
right?
Goggles. I protect.
It is a much higher level of
Yeah.
opportunity to get hurt.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, the ball is moving so fast that it can cause some serious damage. That said, the racket head, as it's striking the ball, is also accelerating at a ridiculous pace. But at the pro level, the pros are the ones probably hitting the ball the hardest. But the pros also know where to be and where not to be, and where to hit and where not to hit.
Yeah.
Now, do some people get lit up on purpose? Absolutely. But, it doesn't last long. It might happen one or two times tops in a match if it's on purpose. It does happen accidentally. There has been some. I can actually only think of only one like severe incident, and it didn't even have anything to do with the racket or the ball.
Can you get kind of physical in there? Like, do you bump into each other and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can happen. Actually, one of my opponents, who I have a ton of respect for, love her to death.
Yeah.
She and I even played doubles together at sometimes. She and I love her game style, and we go at it physically. There's, again, where to be and where not to be.
Yeah.
And there's kind of a subconscious etiquette that you don't want to hit someone, but there's also times where you want to, you're crowding me, and I'm going to take a full swing to make sure that you get the message. I don't appreciate you crowding me. And other times it's not even that personal. It's just, I'm going to take a full swing so that I can execute the shot that I want to hit without compensating for your poor position.
Right.
It's not personal. I'm not trying to hurt you.
Right.
But you're in my way. And if you get hit, that's actually your fault. And I'm going to go ahead and take my shot. And that's not personal. That's not gamesmanship. That's not trying to hurt anyone. But but she and I very much play each other that way, where we're taking full swings and we take the hits. And there's almost like that mutual warrior respect between us in doing so.
Yeah, you're both trying to win.
Yes.
So if you can get into each other's head, that's obviously an advantage.
But that's just it. When she and I do it, there is no head games about it. It's just that I'm not going to hold up for you. I know you're not going to hold up for me.
It's kind of a reminder.
I'm still going to take my spot.
Yeah.
And I know you're still going to take your spot. So let's take our full swings and let's just battle it out and see who's on top at the end of the match.
That's cool.
It's very much not a head game. It's a respect game between the two of us.
We talked about this a little bit before, but for people that play like, for fun or every once in a while, or maybe they did it one time or whatever, like tell me about how much of a sniper you are with this. Like this is not like because we've talked about this. You can send that ball exactly where the hell you want to send it. I think you're probably counting knowing how many bounces it could get, like all these different things. Like, just tell us that level of detail at your level of what you're able to do.
So obviously I've always got my eye on the ball, right? But peripherally, I'm also able to view my opponent and just kind of check. I can kind of check their footwork and their body position, and I can kind of read what they think I'm going to hit.
Yeah.
And up until the last second, I will continue to bait them into thinking that's what I'm going to hit. I'll even set up tendencies well in advance. If I recognize that they're trying to be the rabbit, they're trying to like jump on something early,
Right.
I'll even set it up in advance so that they think that, all right, every time it comes out of this corner, I'm going to hit this down the line. I'll hit a few down the lines intentionally,
Right.
just to bait them into, oh, I'm always going to hit the line.
Right.
Well, that opens up the whole rest of the court. If that's the only shot that they're covering, they're not covering any others. I can hit anything but down the line and have some degree of success with that.
It's like boxing. It's like getting someone to think this is how you respond to that kind of thing on purpose, so you can catch them.
Yeah, like I'm always going to throw this combo after a kick.
Right.
Yeah,
that's so cool. I think it's amazing.
Well, and conversely, when I'm not the one who's hitting the ball, I'm looking at the same things. I'm watching their footwork. I'm watching their racket prep. I'm watching, part of what makes pros is knowing where the ball's going to be before it gets there. We never chase the ball. We meet it because we get there first. We know where it's going to go before it gets there. That's just pattern recognition. That's just a lifetime of watching. Okay, if the ball goes here on its very first hit, this is where it's going to end up. Yeah. This is how long it's going to take to get there. This is the trajectory it's going to take. It's geography without all the math. I'm sorry, geometry without all the math. Right?
Sure.
You're not calculating actual numbers, but you're calculating something that you've seen thousands, if not millions of times, to know where how it's going to end before it gets there.
Right.
And just watching all of that, and also knowing thy opponent is clutch to knowing their tendencies, knowing that, hey, so and so doesn't hit the ball flat. This is all they can hit. They can't hit this or this because they can't hit the ball flat. They always have a spin on it. If they don't want to skip it, they're going to be forced into taking this shot because they don't have the mechanics to hit anything else.
Yeah.
That type of subconscious analysis is happening every millisecond because the sport is so fast.
I like how you said that. It is subconscious. So factoring in all those senses, and as you're playing with someone, how long do you think it usually takes you to kind of understand where someone's at, like their level? Like, because I imagine you can start to pick them apart pretty quick after just a little bit of like how they move and all those things and all that.
I mean, I would say right off the bat, 5 minutes. If they're a slow starter, there may be some adjustment to that observation. Later on, if they start to warm up, if they start to get in a flow, if they start, moving better, if they start hitting better, if they start getting into a groove, my job at that point is to make them feel as uncomfortable as possible so that they never get that groove. How
do you do that? What's the tactic?
By watching. I mean, you watch what they do and you watch what they don't do.
I think you mentioned something about a certain kind of serve technique or something at some point that you would do to kind of get inside someone's head.
Yeah. So I have a shit ton of serves. I have many, many, many different serves that I can hit from each spot in the box. So each time I move in the box, I give myself a different set of angles and possibilities. Now let's just use round numbers. Let's say I can hit 12 serves let's say I can hit 15 serves from like the 3 major spots: center, right of center, left of center, right? By taking another 4 inches back towards that left wall, I can change the angle of the same serve I've been hitting the whole time, or I can open up a whole new serve that I haven't even hit at you yet. I can do the same thing on the right side. I can do the same thing from the center. Like even just moving where you're standing by a couple inches.
Yeah.
Or moving your ball drop by a half an inch, you can redirect it. Wow. By changing how open or closed your stance is at the time of impact, you can disguise the serve and or disguise the ball after you hit it without creating violation. So, I mean, there's just so many ways to kind of mix it up to, I mean, basically keep the receiver honest so that they can't camp out and, know what you're doing when you're going to do it. I personally also have like a 4-serve plan, which I came up with almost out of a gratuitous gift by a court flaw in Mexico. They built a portable court, all glass court for us in the city square in Mexico. I think it was in San Luis Potosi. And there was just a really slick oil spot, for lack of a better word. I don't know what it was, but it was super slippery, and it didn't matter how you tried to mop it up, it wouldn't come up. It was still just really slippery. So since there's no court hinders in the pros, at that time, the rule book stated there's no court hinders except for the first surface after the front wall. Well, we all went front wall, sidewall, and then when it would hit the floor, if it slid, it slid. Can't call it. It is what it is. So naturally, all of us start aiming for that spot.
Yeah.
So during my first match, I just kind of realized, all right, whether I hit that spot or not, here's going to be my service order, and here's why. And I capitalized on it quite frequently, and I'm like, oh, that's a good strategy. I need to remember this, and I've used it, quite a few times since then.
Yeah, I bet. I love hearing all these details that can only be in your head from this level of experience and this level of expertise. Like it's fascinating to me because I totally get it. Like you said, it's a subconscious thing. You can kind of feel the player. Yeah. You kind of put all these senses together, and that can only come from truly mastering what you do. Yeah. And this is what I hope people will take away from this is like, that's the kind of level of mastery that they should strive for in business. Agreed. And in life or whatever they're doing, like if you're into something and you truly want to be great at it, like get in and understand everything about it and then just practice it over and over and over and over. It's not researching it. You didn't research your way to figure out how to do this. You had to get in there and actually get in the fire and just swing away forever. Just keep going.
Let me ask you a question. When I say racquetball, what is the first sensory perception that comes to you? Is it the sound?
I think it's, I don't even know if I'm going to answer this correctly. But when I first think of racquetball, I, for some reason, think of a wall in front of me, a ball, and like just being in that moment of.
So you're thinking, you're thinking of the feeling of swinging.
Yeah. And what I'm about to feel and hear as I hit it.
Okay. Yeah. So feeling and hearing, right? Okay. When I think of the word racquetball, I think of the leather on my hand from my glove.
Yeah.
I think about the zing of the strings as it makes contact with the ball and the slight vibration that I can feel.
Right.
When I know that the contact is perfect.
Yeah.
I think of that thunderous explosion when I make contact and also when it hits the front wall, it just makes that crack like you just crack the sky. Right.
Right.
I think about the squeak of the wood underneath my shoes. And I think of the smell of the rubber of the ball.
Yeah.
Like all of that is in one cocktail of sensory data for me. When you say the word racquetball, all of those senses get rushed with those things for me. I totally get it. I haven't played in so long that I've kind of forgot about all those things, but I know what you mean now. I can smell the racquetball. You can smell the ball. Yeah, for sure. And I actually do that every time when I walk on the court to start to warm up. The first thing I do is I smell the ball. Yeah. And then I bounce it a couple times, and then I hit it into the back wall, let it go back wall, front wall, bounce, and then I take a backhand, and then from there I begin my warm up with starting on the backhand side. Yeah. And you're exactly right. There is something about it. Everyone can experience this if they've swung the racket even a little bit. When you get the perfect hit right in the sweet spot, and it's just the right everything, it's so satisfying. It feels effortless. You're smashing the shit out of it so hard, and it feels effortless. Right. And it makes that sound that doesn't sound like anything else in the world. That just kind of reminded me of like when I was growing up, I was playing racquetball for fun, but both of my parents were music teachers. So I always had to play instruments. So I started with piano, but the main thing I played was trumpet. And as you were describing like the smell of the racquetball and the feel of the leather glove and all this kind of stuff, like that's if you were to ask me like what I think about when it comes to trumpet is that I can feel the cold, metal. I can smell the oil that's on it. I can feel and hear the valves of the keys. I can feel it and hear it as it comes up and hits the felt. I know what it feels like in my hands. And I haven't even talked about what it sounds like yet. You know what I mean? Like I can just, all those senses are there. And because I started to reach, I think I was on that path. I know I was on that path to master that until I quit after high school and joined the Navy.
And I think I started to taste a little bit of what you were just talking about there, like when it comes from that level of mastery of whatever we're into.
Yeah.
Man, that's so cool. I
Now,
love how you
now
put that.
imagine, like you just said, that people need to carry that same, that same dedication and detail to mastery
Yeah.
in business and life, in whatever it is that they want to be successful at it, that they want to master.
Right.
Right. Imagine if everyone did get that immersed sensory wise.
Yeah.
In what they were passionate about.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
It never happens for most people, which is unfortunate.
Well, let this podcast be your note that you should.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's probably going to be one of the main takeaways from this is not just doing something because you're interested in it. Like if you really want to master something, like it's down to the sensors. It's down to these different levels where you can taste it, you can smell it, you can feel it. You know what it feels like when it's like the wrong spot on the racket, the sweet spot, all these different things about it that like you could probably go on for hours just talking about all these little tiny details. And you talked about moving 4 inches this way. You talked about opening your stance a little more. You talked about like all these things. But that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, like a true master at what you do. We don't get to talk to people like you that often.
I'm gonna throw a direct Tim Grover quote at you right now. One of the things he talked about was being obsessed.
Yeah.
And there's a certain behavioral pattern if you're interested. Obsessed people are not interested, they're obsessed. And obsessed is not a bad word.
Right.
It means that you will do anything and everything you have to do to master this in order to produce winning, obviously athletically, but even winning in life, winning in business. Are you interested or are you obsessed? Because if you're obsessed, you're all in. There's nothing that is going to get in your way. You will find a way or you will make a way. You will not make an excuse. That is obsessed. And that's not a dirty word. It means that you are just all in. Or you're just interested. Interested, you're dabbling. Something could stop you. Something could talk you out of it. You're not in the mood. You don't feel like it today. If you're obsessed, none of those things are allowed. None of those things are allowed to cross your brain pan, because then you're not pursuing your obsession.
Yeah. I feel like that word obsessed is really the only way when it comes to like how to earn something. Mm-hmm. Like you can kind of like, you could acquire some stuff if you're interested, and you can kind of, have some little wins here. But if you truly want to like just earn the ability to have all those smells and feels and like, and just really own that word mastery at whatever you do, like to me, that's what earn it means. Like you're all the way in, you're a master at it. You've truly earned the right to have whatever this thing is, or to be this title or have this title, be this person. I love how you put that. Obsessed versus interested. It's true. Mm-hmm. It's totally true. So what is next for you in racquetball? Because we're going to talk about some other stuff in a minute, but what's coming up? You're still playing, I think, right? You've been in it forever.
I have been in it forever. What's going on? I have taken a little more than the past year off to focus on building my businesses of speaking and coaching and trying to get my book done. And that will be coming out in the next couple of months. But I do still 100% intend to continue playing. I just trying to be the responsible adult here. And I set some benchmarks for my business that I want it to be in a certain place. I want it to have certain boxes checked before I return to the court. Simply because, I've always made racquetball my priority, and through a series of just life events and growing up, for lack of a better way to put it, realizing that my decisions no longer affect only me, and I have a family that I love and want to be able to take care of. And I mean, let's face it, no matter how good I am at racquetball, it's not going to pay the bills. So understanding that I need to, continue to grow and continue to try to be of service. I feel like I've got some talents that lie in speaking and coaching and sharing, things that I've learned through a lot of my life experiences that I think can benefit others. Yeah. So that's why I've chosen this path. And that's why I want to build this brand and this service as a speaker and coach to, be able to provide that and provide for my family through that. And, when I have all of those things, those benchmarks met, that I've set, then I can return to the court comfortably without feeling like I'm, abandoning those
Yeah.
that I want to serve and those that I want to be able to provide for.
And to take it for what it is my opinion, but I feel like that is the right place for you to be because, we just now got into all these details about racquetball, which we hadn't talked that deep before about it. So even though like that's like I think probably like a main title or a main thing for Rhonda is like I'm the number one racquetball player in the United States. Like that's awesome. But what really right away from me about you was like, no, this lady has it together. Like we're gonna talk about something in a minute that was just a small part of it, but like you have such a mindset that I haven't seen in hardly any people. And you just confirmed it as we're talking about when you're 5, when you're 12. Like you somehow have this mindset that is not just don't quit, but it's like, no, just like give me, feed me the good, feed me the bad. Just let me go. Like just go. I just want to swing. I just want to keep going. And I feel like that is so applicable in the world, in the coaching world. It's so needed because there's so many coaches in the world that are speaking from like this much experience and they're having this much impact. And they're making all this money and all this fame and stuff. And it's like, you have this much experience and this much to give. What you can do for people is magnitudes more than most people out there that call themselves coaches.
Thank you.
So I feel like I'm so excited for this. And like, I'm taking notes here if you haven't noticed, because I want to bring so many things back like to our coaching group. And it's part of the reason I wanted you on is because I want people to see all of this. The mental toughness, the mental fortitude, the perseverance, all this stuff coming from you. Because sometimes if they're like, oh, cool, number one racquetball player in the US, like that's amazing. They don't really know what that means. I'm like, well, no, listen to her. Like go listen to her speak, take her course, like listen to a podcast, read her book when it comes out. Like that's what I'm really trying to get people to see, that like you're a top level professional, but also a top level coach that people just haven't heard about yet.
Yeah.
So we're going to get that out for sure.
Thank you.
And one of the things that I was reading up about you was you said that you are solutions driven. And I love that because I was in aerospace for a long time. Like after the Navy, I spent 10 years working on classified fighter jets. And
I'm learning so much about you today too.
Okay, well, good. I'll tell you a little bit about it. Then I had my name painted on the side of an F-35B, a Marine version fighter jet. And essentially, it was our job to configure and modify and prepare this jet to go test everything from weapons to stealth technology, speed. You name it, like new computer systems, like all this stuff on it. And I bring that up because it's a very high stakes, very expensive, as you can imagine, world. Everything around us is classified. You got to badge into every area. They're spending this ungodly amounts of money on all the parts and the planes. And on my team, I had guys that worked for and girls that worked for Lockheed Martin, like Boeing, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, U.S. Navy, U.S. Air Force, U.S. Marines, foreign military units sometimes that we partnered with. It was wild. And I bring all that up because what I learned there, and I think the reason I did pretty well there, was that no matter what happened, no matter how much money was at stake, or no matter how much shit was going on with a particular issue with a jet, I was always, like you said, just solutions driven. I was like, whatever, I don't care what it is. I'm emotionless about it. It's black and white. I want the data. Like, I don't care what the result is that we're losing a mission that has $1 billion on the line. Like, it's irrelevant to me. What is the problem? What is the data? And when you attack a problem like that, like the faster you can get into problem solving mode, the quicker you get over the emotional, oh my God, something bad happened. Like, and that's how I always attacked the jet. And that's how I attacked just life. I'm like, no matter what it is, at least for me, if I can get into solution driven, like let's figure it out faster, it doesn't really affect me personally. So that's what it means to me, but what does solutions driven mean to you? Is it anything like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Almost identical. I actually recently read a book where they call the problem-centric thought pattern. If you can get out of that in 60 seconds or less and go from the problem side of the paper to the solution option side of the paper in 60 seconds or less,
yeah,
you're going to have a whole lot more success not living in, not dwelling in, not being conquered by the problem centric thinking is exactly the term they used.
Right.
But I mean, say for example, me, if I'm in a match and say I have an opponent who's hitting a serve from the left side of the court to go behind them, so basically between them and the wall, and I'm struggling to see it. I'm struggling to read the serve because I can't really see it until it gets past them, and by then my reaction time window has closed because the ball is already halfway through the court.
Sure.
Right? So if I'm raising my hand to the referee and the referee is not calling a screen serve based on their vantage point or based on, that it is actually within 18 inches of their body or whatever. If I can't see it, I have the option of, and I've done this, I will just scoot over and stand right behind them. So now I'm no longer standing in the middle of the court. Now two things are going to happen. You're either going to get greedy and hit me that same serve right at me, except now I can see it. And you've also put yourself right in front of me as I'm returning it, so you can potentially get lit up. Or I've just baited you into hitting something else. If I'm all the way on the left side of the court, it would be dumb for you not to hit it to the open area to the right side of the court.
Yeah.
Which means now either way, I can either see the serve that I couldn't see before, or I know what you're going to hit because I'm over here.
Yeah.
So to me, if I can't see a serve and the ref is of no use making a call, here's one thing I can do to try to alter your rhythm to make you uncomfortable. And now and then we'll see how that plays out.
That's great, because I can see some people getting frustrated at that. Like, I can't see it. Like, she's doing this and this, and it's like, you're like, well, no, I'm going to try this and then that, and I'm going to do everything I can to put it back on her, make her feel uncomfortable.
Well, don't get me wrong. I got frustrated first.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I did get frustrated first. And then
Sure.
I'm like, fine, then I'll just stand over here.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, what else, at that point I was like, well, what else can I do?
Sure.
If you don't feel comfortable making that call, if it's actually not a screen, then it's not a screen. You can't call it. Or
Yeah.
if you're just inept and you can't tell that it is a screen or whatever, if they're going to continue to serve that, I have to do something to change my ability to return it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I stay right here, I don't know what else I can do unless my opponent hits a shitty serve and I
Right.
can see it. But if they continue to hit a good serve that makes it difficult for me to see it and read and react, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move over here. You're either going to hit that right back to me. Cool. Thank you. Now I can see it. No problem. Problem solved.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm going to make you change your serve. Again, problem solved.
So I want to ask you about how to handle outside forces, because a lot of times when they're working on a project or they're trying to master something or they're in business, they're like, okay, no matter what happens within this sphere of stuff, I can handle it. But then as soon as something happens outside of there, like in their family or with an injury or something like that, they're like, well, that wasn't part of what I was ready to deal with. And now all this is kaput. You've gone through a lot of stuff outside of racquetball that affected racquetball. And you shared a story with me one time that broke my heart hearing it. But as you came through it, even just the other day, as we're getting this laser therapy together, you're still dealing with it. Tell us kind of what happened, specifically that time that, affected your face and how that played right into your racquetball career. Because I want to pull some stuff out of that, because most people would have quit for sure with what happened with you. So tell us what happened in that story.
Do you want the gory details or
Yeah.
just the synopsis?
Yeah.
Okay. Gory details.
Whatever you want.
Oh, I just time-wise, I don't know how much time we have.
No, we're good.
Okay. I was in Hermosa. I was living in Hermosa Beach at the time. I was late at night. I was walking down the Strand, headed in search of some water. We were out of bottled water. Not trying to drink LA Tap at 1:00 in the morning.
No, probably not.
So I was walking down the Strand, and there was a guy standing underneath a light pole, and he just kind of started making casual conversation with me. I didn't think anything of it. He's like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "I'm all right. How are you?" "All right, cool." And out of nowhere, while we're having this minor cordial conversation, this guy comes off of a darkened patio, comes at me on the side, and he's like, What the fuck did you say to my boy?" And I'm surprised. I'm like, "Where'd you come from?" I was really surprised by his reaction at me just walking by. So I'm like, "Nothing, man. I'm just on my way. You guys have a good night." And I walked in between them, deliberately put my hands in my pockets so that they didn't feel I was any kind of threat to them. And I took about 6 steps. And then next thing I know, bam! And it was a feeling of the geography of this part of my face had been shifted over here. And it wasn't a pain sensation, but I was more trying to process the sound. It sounded like when you take several stalks of celery and snap them in half. That's what it sounded like. And as I'm processing that sound, bam! And it was after the second hit made impact that I realized that they were attacking me from behind. And all I could do was kind of go like this and try to protect myself. I'm trying to, step away from them and cover up.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up taking, I think, probably 10, 15 shots to my face and head. And after doing this and squirreling away a little bit, I turned around and I squared up. And that was when I realized that they were both wearing brass knuckles. And then there was like this little flick of, oh, that's why it sounded like that. But I mean, as soon as I turn around, instinctively, of course, I wanted to hit back, but I had the presence of mind not to, because my immediate thought in that moment was, I have Worlds in 6 weeks. I don't want to break my hand on your dumb fucking face and not be able to hold my racket and go represent my country in Ireland for the World Championships next month. So I didn't hit back because I'm like, they've stopped hitting. There's no reason for me to hit. So I didn't. But I'm kind of micro-evaluating the whole situation. And there was some words that they said. They all sounded like Charlie Brown's mom to me in that moment.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, this one guy who just kind of started the conversation was like, come on, dude, we got to go. Someone's going to call the cops. We got to go. And so they ran off. I didn't want them to know that I lived right below that, or right on the same property behind the darkened patio that they had come off of.
Yeah.
So I walked back towards Redondo, went out to the Hermosa side. It never even occurred to me to call the cops. It never even occurred to me that a crime had been committed. I did, however, feel like my eyeball was going to fall out. So I was walking home like this. And as I'm walking home like this, you remember that first Pirates of the Caribbean movie?
Yeah.
Remember there was that tall, skinny pirate with the wooden eyeball that kept falling out all movies, chasing it around the ship deck and everything? I couldn't stop thinking about that. I'm like, oh my God, if this falls out, it's going to get sand on it. They're not going to be able to put it back in. It's going to be gross. And so I'm walking home like this for that reason, right? And yes, I did find out later medically my eyeball could have fallen out. So that was actually a wise choice on my part. But I'm walking home, walking south on the Strand, and I hear something and I turn around and it was the guy who had come off the patio. And he's running at me like this, still wearing his brass knuckles like he's going to Superman punch me. And I turned around and I saw him and I put my left hand out like this. And I go, dude, just stop. Just stop. I'm standing there like this and he goes, fuck you, bitch. I'll fucking kill you where you stand. You think I give a shit? I just got out of prison, bitch. I'll kill you right here. I'll fucking end you tonight. And I'm standing there like this. And at that point I was pissed. Like, I'm just pissed. And so I dropped my hands and I made fists and I said, okay, then go ahead. Go ahead. I'm right here. Kill me. What are you waiting for? In my mind, I'm thinking, oh, you chicken shit motherfucker.
Yeah.
You came at me 2-on-1 from behind the first time. Now you're going to come at me face to face and now you're just going to threaten to kill me? No. I don't care that you're a guy. I don't care that you have a weapon. I don't care that you're bigger than me. I hit for a living and I know how to generate force. So you very well might kill me tonight, but I will hurt you on the way down. So let's go. Like, I was fully prepared to defend myself at that point. I didn't say any of that. I just said, okay, then go ahead, kill me.
Yeah.
But that's what was kind of going through my mind. I was pissed. I was mad.
Yeah.
And so then I'm like, all right, then let's go. And he looked me up and down and went, tss, and ran off again. In the meantime, I proceeded to walk home, go upstairs. My girlfriend freaked out. She and her friend called 911. Ambulance came, took me to the hospital. Had a bunch of tests. I have to say that the most heartbreaking thing to me in all of this was when we got the results of the images and scans and stuff back, and the doctor did come in and present, that I have several facial fractures and I'm going to require a facial reconstructive surgery, and that the surgeons would be in to talk more about that with me later on. When my girlfriend at the time had gone back to call my mother to tell her what happened, the thing that guts me to this day is I can't unhear my mother's shriek at the other end of the phone. That broke my heart. And then my poor father, my mom was in such a frazzled state. She just got to California as quickly as possible. She just got there as fast as she could. And by the time my dad heard about it, he didn't hear about it from my mother. It had reached him through other sources somehow. And by the time he heard the news, it had morphed into, I was beaten by a gang at the beach and I was beaten to death with baseball bats and I was dead.
Oh, damn.
And so my poor father, he ends up calling the hospital, and my mom answered. And he was understandably a wreck. And when she straightened it all out for him, he was there within the next 2 hours as well. And my parents stayed there for 2 weeks. I did have to have facial reconstructive surgery 10 days after I got jumped. It took that long for the swelling to go down. My surgery was supposed to take between 4 and 5 hours. Mine took over 12. Again, my poor parents just sitting there looking at the clock, wondering, "Oh my God, did she die?" And they're not telling us.
Mm-hmm.
But 5 titanium plates and who knows how many pins and screws later, I came out. I went through a lot after that. And again, all the while, it never occurred to me that I would not be going to Worlds. It never occurred to me that I would not be going to Ireland with Team USA to compete in the World Championships that year.
How close was that timeline?
I got jumped on the 1st, reconstructive surgery on the 11th. My flight was supposed to leave July 29th for Ireland.
Like 2 weeks later. 2.5 weeks later.
The following month.
Jeez.
So 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So after I got out of the hospital after the surgery, I had a conversation with our U.S. team coach, our head coach, and he's checking on me and asking, all the questions and making sure I'm all right. And then he's like, "Well, heal up quick, kid. We're all going to be thinking of you and playing our asses off for you." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to be playing my ass off for you too." He's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "At Worlds in Ireland next month." And he goes, "You're not going." I'm like, "Excuse me? Don't you dare take this away from me. Worlds is the reason I didn't hit back." And I was just, I couldn't, it never, ever, ever occurred to me that I wouldn't be going. And I was more devastated by that than actually getting hit. So I fell into a deep depression for about 3 days. And then I'm like, I can't exist like this. So I wrote him an email. I addressed it to him, but I copied the USAR board, the US team committee, anybody I could think of that could weigh in. And I just said, "Dear Dave, apparently whether or not I go to Worlds is not up to me, but whether or not I am ready for Worlds is entirely up to me. So do whatever you need to do, have your meetings and your phone calls, and do whatever you truly believe is in the best interest of Team USA. But just so you know, whether I go to Ireland or not, I will be ready to be the world champion by July 29th. So if I don't go and you don't win, that's on you." Keep in mind, I am 37 pounds underweight. I'm not allowed to sleep laying down for 2 months, and I couldn't eat solid food for 5 months. So anyway, as soon as I hit send on that email, I had to release attachment for any attachment to an outcome. I'm either going or I'm not.
Right.
I'm not going to worry about it. In the meantime, I need to go get ready. And the only way I could get ready was mentally, because I couldn't use my body. They gave me a walker because I was so heavily medicated. They were concerned about me falling if I got up.
What was your face like at this time? Could you see out of that eye? And
No.
Did you have like one of those like plastic, kind of like supportive masks on or anything?
So they
like
made me
bandages.
They made me a custom one when I went to try to play the second week of July.
Yeah.
Second week of July, I entered an outdoor tournament. Again, still 37 pounds underweight. Still can't.
This is before Worlds.
This is before Worlds.
Yeah.
This was 3 weeks post surgery. I went and entered 3 divisions in an outdoor tournament. I think I won one of them, and I was genuinely pissed that I didn't win all 3. But I had one of those masks for that tournament. I wore it for 3 points of the first game, and I took it off after that.
Yeah, you're like, I'm out of here.
I'm like, whatever. And then the head coach had come down to watch me play, and he's like, "Damn, I was not expecting that. Holy shit, I can't believe you're here, let alone playing like this." And we had a long conversation about, yeah, but what about this? What if this? And what did the doctor say? And blah, blah, blah. And at the end of it, I said, "Dave, I don't need my face to hit the ball. My arms and my legs still work. I can still hit it and I can still go get it." And he laughed. He's like, "Well, yeah, you're right. I didn't think about that." And anyway, I guess that sentence, plus watching me play that weekend, he was convinced that, yeah, I should be able to be ready and to be called up to go play for my country at Worlds. And I got to go.
So how did that go? So you get there, you get to Worlds in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is like how many weeks? 6 weeks later?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. Okay. So how did Worlds go?
I won my first world title without losing a single game. I never even went breaker in a single match. and I
And
wasn't
he
even,
wanted to keep you home.
I remember like I fell to the ground. I actually have it on my phone. I can show you later. I actually fell to the ground. It's the most emotional reaction I had ever had
I bet.
in a match. But I remember like all I could think of after I hit that winning shot was I'm not even supposed to be here. And that was in the way of they weren't going to let me go on the trip. And that was also in the way of I could have died that night. Multiple different ways I could have died that night. And I'm still here. And I fucking won.
And you won.
And I knew it though.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Like the reason I was so staunch about going was not any kind of flex. It had nothing to do with ego. It simply had to do with, I know what I'm capable of. You don't get to tell me what I'm not capable of because I know what I'm capable of. I know I can do this. I know that even in this condition, I am still your best option. And, you know, it wasn't just special for me because I won that year. It was so special for me because I played my U.S. teammate in the singles final. So we had an all-U.S. final for the women. We had an all-U.S. final for the men. The men's 2 singles players were in the final.
Yeah.
Our women's doubles team also won, and our men's doubles team also won. So we won every individual award. We won the men's overall, the women's overall, and the team overall. And that is the last time, all the way up until today, that Team USA swept like that.
Damn.
It's the last time that happened.
With a crushed face and everything.
With being a shell of myself, yes.
I mean, you put in the work all the years before it, you know, and I totally get that. Like on the outside, sure, coach was like a lot of people with their families in business, they were trying to look out for you, you know, but it's like, no, you knew.
I did know.
And you proved it.
I did. That's
amazing. So I've been thinking about something for a while, and I feel like you're probably the best person to ask this. I know you've heard it over and over and over again, but it's around the saying of don't quit. So to me, like, I feel like don't quit is too shallow. Like it's too, like there's no substance behind it. So when I think about it, like when someone's going through some crap, whether it's an injury or it's a downtime in business or whatever, like don't quit. To me, I envision it kind of like just treading water, like just don't quit, don't sink. To me, I like to say earn it, because earn it implies not quitting. So that's already part of it. But then it also is action. And you just beautifully walked right into this with that story. Because don't quit, I feel like it's not doing a lot of people anything. Like if you don't have a real plan, and if you're not doing something that's going to take you to where you want to go, well, maybe you should stop doing that and do something else. But like, what are your thoughts on that? Because you didn't just like not quit. Like, no, you went and signed up for another tournament. You like wrote all those emails to all sorts of people beside the coach. Like you went and did this above and beyond action to make sure you went to Worlds to then prove everybody wrong that you were supposed to be there and you are the best, you know, but you didn't just like not quit. You had to do way more than that.
So it wasn't just proving anyone else wrong. In fact, that was probably lowest on the totem pole. It was proving myself right. But it was almost like I didn't need to prove it though, because I already knew it. I just brought what I knew to reality.
Yeah.
But when you say don't quit, my mind goes to why. Not like why don't quit, but like why would you quit?
Mm-hmm.
And it's called, you know, like if this is a mountain, if you invert the mountain, then the mountain's going like this. So take the opposite of that. Okay. So what happens if you do quit? What are the consequences? What is going to be the reactions from your decision? What are going to be the consequences of that decision if you do quit? What happens? So at our most basic human existence, every single decision we make is either to run from pain of some kind or towards pleasure of some kind. At our most basic in our existence, every single thing we do is for one of those two directions, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have the desire, if the thought even crosses your mind of quitting, what is it that you're running away from? Or are you running towards something? Or do you want to quit this because you want to pursue that? Okay, those are two different, very, very different scenarios. One, you are And if you are running away from something, what happens if you confront it? I mean, it's basically taking, whatever the situation is, make that inversion argument or ask the inverted question of, okay, well, what if you do? Okay, well, what if you don't?
Right.
What are the consequences of these choices going to be? And it can either, in doing that, in asking yourself that very question, what am I running from, or what am I running towards? You can learn a lot about yourself. And if you get stuck, if you're trying to answer that question and you have to think about it, you don't even know why you're quitting. You're quitting because you don't want to do the work. I actually just created a course called There Actually Is a Magic Pill for Success. That's what everybody's looking for, right?
Right.
Well, there actually is one. You know what it is? Do the fucking work. That is what the magic pill is. Doing the work means consistency. It means clarity, and it means commitment. Those are the 3 prongs of that course that I have coming up.
Yeah.
Because that is the magic pill for success. It's not a shortcut. It's not a pill. But if you do those things, it will produce magic.
Boom. I think we can probably end it at that. I mean, this is a conversation I've been wanting to have for a while, and you proved me right. Absolutely. So many more people need to listen to you, and they need to hear your story and the way you've attacked your entire life. Like, I really mean that. So your book is coming out, and you said in a couple months?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're looking for hopefully August, September release date.
And what's that called? Never Off My Feet.
Never Off My Feet.
Okay.
Never Off My Feet.
Okay, cool. We're going to be getting that, and we'll have to read that and talk about that.
Absolutely.
Let's see. So what's coming up next for you? Because I know you're just starting like in your coaching world, and your book is just coming out soon and all that. I have no doubt you're going to be all over the place, as you rightfully should be. So like, where do you think is the best place for people to like just to go see what you're doing now? And as your courses come out, your book comes out, and like all that kind of stuff, like how do people learn from you?
So my website is rhondaspeaks.com.
Okay.
There's a lot of introductory info on there. There's links to my socials on there as well, in the upper right hand corner. Also, if you do go to the website, once you go to rhondaspeaks.com, within about 2 seconds, there's a pop-up that you can put your email address in to be notified when the book drops.
Perfect.
So that list will get first dibs on knowing exactly when it's going to drop, and they will also get first dibs on the books that get shipped out. And as far as the speaking and the coaching, I'm starting to pick up, more than one speaking gig a month, so that's a good thing.
Sweet.
Yeah, I right now my coaching roster is open because I intentionally cleared it for a period of time so that I could finish the book and focus on that. And now that time is coming to an end, I'll start accepting coaching clients again mid-July. You can go onto my website and click the coaching application form. There's multiple places where you can open up that form. And I'm looking forward to the summer. I'm looking forward to a busy summer. I'm looking forward to the speaking engagements I have coming up, some panels I have coming up. And to be honest, I'm looking forward to hitting these benchmarks so I can get back on the court soon.
Yeah, good. Because the world needs this. People need to learn from people like you that have real experience, real expertise, real mastery, have gone through hell, and are still here smiling and still doing what you do. So I'm really excited for everyone to learn from you. I'm excited for you, and I can't thank you enough for being here today.
Thank you for having me, man. It's been a joy.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was great.
Hell yeah.